I think let's begin with our current session. So, we all know that the pandemic has changed every convention of everyday life, credit to the social distancing and use of masks. And this has hobbled the salon industry in a big way. The challenges of this industry to stay afloat are way more than many other in the tertiary sector, for this is a service-based touch and feel industry. One must be wondering how a hairstylist should attend to a client from 2 meters distance. Our next session focuses on the changing dynamics of operating within this touch-driven industry, and to decode the same, we have an interesting panel of industry experts. First, I would like to welcome Okay, we are yet to be joined by Mr. C.K. Kumar Raval, who is the CEO and founder of Natural Salon. He, along with his wife, Miss K. Veena, changed the face of the salon industry from a taboo activity in 2000 to a lifestyle industry now. Inspired by his mother, R.C. Hemlata, he believes in women power and is now on a mission to create a housewife-free India. His long-term goal is to make Naturals the number one salon chain of the world. His next vision is to create 1,000 successful women entrepreneurs, 3,000 salons, 50,000 jobs by 31st December 2025 across the globe. Next, we have Mr. Sachin Kamath, Director of Enrich. He is a part of the management team that introduced several industry firsts in the area of customer experience, people practices, quality assurance, initiatives, and technology adoption, supported by robust systems and processes and a rigor for metrics and analytics. Enrich has braved the pandemic backed by these very capabilities and is now taking steps to the next level of growth and expansion. Next with us we have Mr. Arpit Sharma, founder CEO 7 Seas Spa. Multi-talented and consistently awarded by the industry with awards like Entrepreneur of the Year, Best Customer Service, Best Innovations and Best Wellness Company in India. Doctor Sharma has a deep understanding of the correlation between strategies and profitability. He has worked closely in hospitality sector by partnering and entering in JV models with more than 60 plus hotels. He is known for contributing insights at various forums and events as a public speaker and in panel discussions. Next, we have Mr. Savio John Pereira, celebrity hairstylist. Award-winning renowned celebrity hairstylist Savio John Pereira, whose work has been described as avant-garde, has been in the industry since 1997. His skill and expertise are evident from his impressive client list and includes famous Indian female actors and personalities like Priyanka Chopra, Neha Dhupia, Sonakshi Sinha, Shilpa Shetty, Kangana Ranaut, Mary Kom, and cricketer Yuvraj Singh. Savio has won numerous awards and accolades, both Indian and international, and is the first Indian hairstylist to be selected as a part of the international jury and a judge to represent India for the OMC Hair World, which is the largest congregation of hairdressers all over the planet. Savio John Pereira is his latest exclusive venture. The salon opened in 2009 to rave reviews from both the media and his celebrity clients. Savio has worked on several Bollywood movies and advertising campaigns, besides showcasing his talent at selective photo shoots for magazines like Elle, Vogue, Harper Bazaar's People, Playboy, Official, Hybrid, and Cosmopolitan. Next, we have with us Mr. Rajiv Nair, Chief Executive Officer of Kaya Limited, with over 20 years of retail experience spanning across multiple formats including departmental stores, specialty retail and hypermarket format and catalog retailing. Rajiv's area of experience includes buying and merchandising, retail operations, private label, brand development and overall P&L responsibilities. Rajiv completed his post-graduation in management for senior executives at the Indian School of Business and his MMM in marketing from Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies. To steer the session forward, I would now like to invite Mr. Rahul Balchandran, CEO and founder director of YLG Salons. He is a professional turned entrepreneur with domain expertise in health and beauty retail and services. He quit his corporate job at Future Group and moved to Bangalore in 2008, founded YLG, a Bangalore-based salon chain, along with his better half, Vaijayanti, an engineer from IIT Kharagpur. Rahul holds an PGDM from IIM Calcutta. With Rahul's background in health and beauty retail, his first instinct was to start a retail chain. However, a combination of statutory environment and investor interest led both to think seriously if they wanted to jump into the salon business. A joint thinking period of over a month later, both were committed to building a salon chain which would consistently deliver world-class services and products for the Indian women at a reasonable price. Over to you, Rahul.
Wow.
Okay, so good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all my panelists. It's a pleasure to see all of you again, and some of you I've met the first time. So we're going to kick off the discussion with some very interesting questions which I have, and which I would like each one of you to put forward. What is it that in your company, in your mindset, how have you done this, and how do you see this going forward, right? So the first question is basically, how have you adapted your business model during this time, and how do you see it going forward? So Dr. Arpit, let's start with you.
So I've been, as you know, that I'm into spas, and I've been operating spas in hotels and resorts for almost 12 years now. So it's been a very difficult time because spas, basically, there's nothing that you can do where you can be distant from the customer. So we tried a lot of things, and we finally came to a conclusion that we'll have to stick to and give importance to other treatments than body treatment. So we tried a lot of foot massages, and it gave us a very good business, and we're doing that in all the spas right now. We're opening up again. We opened 2 of our spas again after a year's time, and we see that people are really interested to, they're craving for spas. And we've opened our Rajasthan spas at the moment. We're also opening up Mussoorie, and we see that people are okay with just a foot massage as well, because people feel that, okay, whatever they can get hands on, let's do that. So I see that getting into other services is a great option. Foot massages was probably the last thing people used to go for, because in a body treatment you get everything under one treatment, but now giving a foot massage for 60 minutes is the way forward for us at the moment.
Okay, great. So that's like focusing on something which was not so prime in your frame of mind,
Right.
and making a business out of it. That's fantastic.
Right.
Sachin, would you like to give your views on this? How the business model has evolved?
I think while this is still a story getting played out, the way it has been for us is to try and see how we can, like somebody said, that never waste a crisis, right? While everybody is worried about a crisis, one way of looking at it is how can you look at it as something that will allow you to do things that you were not able to do before. So for us, what we are trying to see is, for example, if we are good in services as our anchor and doing, can we also, while doing good in services, get more focus on product? We are good as a salon brand doing services in salon. Can we try and figure out in what way can we actually start serving people outside. We are very good offline because we are a destination and we are a Sala brand. Can we try and see how we can get better focus online, right, or e-commerce? And finally, personal touch is something that is something held very close in our business. Again, without or rather while leveraging that, how can we also embrace tech in a much nicer, bigger manner? So for us, it is more like using whatever that you have as strengths, as anchors, and trying to figure out how can you leverage it to become more omni-channel, if I were to call it that in a simpler manner.
And if I were to ask you, if the journey was from 0 to 100, where would you see yourself during this time?
Actually, in a certain way, some of this journey had begun earlier. We believe that there is this famous thing which says that what brought you here can't get you there, right? So every stage of your growth, you need to kind of reinvent yourself. It's like saying that if the same team that won the last World Cup was there 4 years later to play the next one, and they tried to do the same roles, it might not get you the cup again, because a lot of things have changed in the interim. So this is not specifically very COVID pandemic kind of thinking, but something that we had set in motion slightly ahead of that. If anything, I think COVID would have just helped making us very much surer about it and serious about it, and trying to, and in some manners would have aided it. But I don't know whether right now I can put a number to it or something like that.
So Savio, let me come to you now. So how have you adapted during this time? How has the business fundamentally changed for you? Or has it not changed?
The business has fundamentally changed in quite a few ways, actually. One is right now it's about a complete experience for your clients and including your team, actually. And it's more like a body, mind, soul kind of an experience that you're kind of giving, because you're not just taking care of one particular service or one particular aspect of a person walking into your salon. It's people are emotionally kind of down, people are physically down, people are mentally down. So and at the same time they want to kind of look good, they want to feel good. There've been job losses, you've kind of lost jobs, business has gone down, you're not seeing that kind of money you were seeing. And a lot of people are not equipped for that part of it. So so when a client walks in, the whole idea for us, especially for the team, has been, it's about creating the complete experience. From the moment you come in, of course, there are quality checks which are being constantly being kept, where your sanitization, hygiene, because that is top priority. The moment they walk in, that's something they want to look, they want to kind of see and feel that part of it. So that's the first touch point that happens. And I guess once you come in, and the service kind of goes in with a complete end-to-end solution. So it's not just about giving a haircut, or it's not just about cutting hair. As Arpit and Mr. Kamath mentioned earlier, there's a lot of touch and feel. It's a very physical kind of profession that we are in. We're touching clients, either their head, their feet, their bodies, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So in those ways, it's kind of changed. But I think the biggest thing, Rahul, that's come out of this is of trying to understand your client's mental state of mind. That's one very, very important aspect. And that is something we've been training our teams in the past 8-9 months right now, how to deal with this. It's not just about giving a great haircut, but this is what you've got to take care of. And at the same time, you've got to kind of ensure that you're taking care of your team member in a similar way, because they themselves are not equipped for this whole part of it. You know what I'm saying? They are going through their own struggles. They are going through their own challenges. So it's a huge challenge for all of us. But just to sum it up, is the experience that I think all of us salons are working towards right now. I feel that kind of puts it together.
Absolutely. So this is fascinating insight, Savio, and I doubt whether many of us think on those lines, because we tend to equate customers many times with just the bill values and how much business and so on. But this part is something which is. Thank you for putting a spotlight on this. Rajiv, how has your business adapted to this new normal, and how do you fundamentally see the business model going forward?
Yeah, I think, I mean, first of all, because you are a business, you also have to say the fact that is there continuity? Because in all our collective experiences, we have not come across more than 4 or 5 days worth of disruption in our lives in business. And all of a sudden, we realize that this disruption is something that you don't even know when the end is going to come. So obviously, we are not just getting prepared for the first 3 months of lockdown, but actually looking at the future and saying the fact that if situation continues to be like this for over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, how the business is going to adapt to this changes that are actually going to happen. So initially, the first gut reaction was, how do I survive as a business? First important thing is, over the first 3 months, 4 months, if there is going to be a shutdown, how am I going to get prepared? Because fortunately for us, being a doctor-led business, the severity of the problem was understood much earlier, because doctors started realizing this is a global level problem, and it's not going to be something that will go away in 1 or 2 months' time. So cash conservation and creating a leaner business model was the first thing that came to mind. So obviously all aspects of our costs, we managed to actually rethink and rework for the last year. That process actually for us continues even in the coming year. So whether pandemic continues or whether our business is going to have multiple shutdowns in future, we have worked on a zero-based budgeting model, which actually says the fact that over the next 3 years, 4 years, if our costs need to continue to remain lean, how is that going to really work on? So we are actually in the process of virtually, like Sachin said, we are in a journey as far as that is concerned. Second is, obviously there are people involved in this business, right? So our staff is our biggest asset, and all of us collectively, actually, I would say, along with our customers, the significant asset that we hold really are our people. So obviously, initially, because of the sheer need of cost controls, there were salary cuts, there were various other things that we had to put our people through. So I think also managing their expectation well over the first 6 months or 7 months to say that we are all together, we are part of a team, and we will make sure that as and when the business normalizes, there is a particular kind of visibility that we create for you. So actually, our communication to our people actually went up manifolds. And if it continues this way over the next 2 years, I think one of the biggest things that we need to do is continuous communication with people. The psychological health of employees is another thing. Like, Savio mentioned about consumers, but also our employees are going through a lot of strain. So I think a lot of activities were done around mental health challenges of employees. In fact, in future, physical health and mental health will become an important part of our business, whether we are in the healthcare space or no. I think that's the second thing that we spend most of our time. So yoga sessions for employees, physical fitness sessions, conversations, having mental health experts talking to people. That's the other thing that we actually did look at. Third is, we actually saw the change in the consumer behavior in terms of whether it is positive or negative for our business. In fact, we and collectively our board felt that it's going to be negative because touch and feel businesses are not going to really function and people are not going to come back. But consumer behavior changed as the months went by. In fact, certain services that we offer today, for example, laser hair removal, or for that matter, acne treatments and others, actually got aggravated as a problem area for consumers during this period. And the recovery and the bounce back was absolutely quick. So in fact, to the extent that some of these services, we already started growing double digits over previous year, because of the fact that the customer was sitting at home and in a specific need stage that they needed to come in and get this service. And also, one of the other big areas is keeping on harping about safety and creating a full-fledged campaign called Kaya Safe in all methods. It could be videos and testimonials of consumers to physical manifestations in the clinics and stuff like that was the other area. Lastly, converting our business from a completely physical model to a digital physical model, almost creating a digital, I would say umbrella around the organization is something that we did. It started very simply by saying, let's focus a lot more on the product business and let's start focusing on our e-commerce business. But as we speak, we are building a digital ecosystem, which is our D2C website, where even services can be booked online. customer bookings can be done online, products can be sold online, and web consultation. One of the new areas that we saw was we started working with companies like Mfine, for example, who are into web consultation business. And we did over 6,000 web consults in a matter of 3 months with them. We are now tied up with CureFit, which is a CultFit group. And we are now available in Bangalore through the CultFit route in their system. And we may scale up over a period of time with the rest. So collaboration was the other thing that we realized could be very important for us to grow. So there could be multiple things that I can talk about, but I think it made us think really hard about our core, our base, and that's how we actually proceeded. But I don't think it's the end of story right now. And Sachin said it rightly, the story is continuing. We need to continue to shape, adapt, and grow. That's basically how I'd put it.
That's really, really fantastic. So again, coming back to Arpit, do you see a change in the customers?
Rahul, one small moment. How about you telling us
Yeah,
you have adapted,
exactly.
right?
So
Good one.
I will.
You have, over the years, I've always got a lot of interesting insights from you. I wouldn't like to miss out on those.
Yes.
So anyway, my job here is to get the views from all of you. So let me do that. I will weigh in after that. Don't worry, I will also share my views. So coming back to Arpit, how do you see the customers' behavior or expectations have changed? Because there's been such a big shift, in the environment in every aspect of life. So I'm sure your customer today is very different from, or what she expects or what he expects is not the same what it was a year ago. So what are your, if I would say the top 2 observations in terms of customer behavior?
I think there are 2 kind of customers that have really picked up. One is the ones who were always wanted to be into spas. So they are still coming, they are still there, nothing is moving from that sense. The other is that the customers who never used to believe in wellness, they have also increased a lot, because after reading, getting knowledge, what to eat, how important is gut health, how important is your mental health, how important is your overall well-being, that has really changed. So we, like I said, we've opened 2 spas, and now we have customers who never used to go to spas. So they started believing in mental health, well-being. They started believing in, getting products. Our retail products have picked up because now people want self-care as well. So in that aspect, I think we have gained a certain number of new customers, but also we have lost the middle people who took spas as a luxury, who took retail as a luxury. So we've lost those, but the people who saw wellness as a necessity, and the people who never believed in it, they have become a part of the entire business for us.
Very interesting. Savio, I would like you to, tell us about how you feel your customer has changed. One thing you said is that, they are more stressed, which is one aspect of it. But apart from that, what are the other things which you observe amongst your customers, which is different from what used to be there earlier?
At this point, Rahul, what, reassurance will be a very big word. People want to be constantly reassured. And what's really making a big impact on business is word of mouth. You know what I'm saying? So that is something which is kind of really, and like one of my salons is in the Pali Hill area, very upmarket, spending power is high. So, and we had clients from all over. Now we've gotten so many new clients because of the word of mouth. Because one is they know that, oh, you know what, the Savio John Pereira team is constantly reassuring you. Their hygiene levels are high. The social distancing, they're taking all the precautions. So that, I guess, if people are talking about it a lot more, spreads even faster for newer people to come and spend money. So people, I realized, don't have a problem really spending money, but they want to kind of be reassured that they're going into the right place for that part of it. So that has changed quite a bit, and lots of new clients. As Arpit also mentioned, I think a lot of new people, who are coming in for these kind of services. So it's kind of, it's balancing out well. But keywords, I would say, reassurance and word of mouth, which is really making the rounds right now. People talk to people. People, when they're talking to people, they're actually kind of coming and visiting your places. So that's my part of it.
So Rajiv, do you think that this approach is also doable in a large company like yours, which is a publicly listed
Yeah.
company?
So I think I completely echo what Savio has mentioned, Arpit has mentioned. I think the whole what do you call bottom line is trust. Building trust in the brand during this kind of a time is extremely crucial, because the only thing that they want to believe in is, are you going to take good care of me? Right? So that's something that is there. And I think all of us, I wouldn't like to say one of us or all of us, have tried really hard to reassure our consumers to come back to the business. So in the bargain, what has happened is that the word of mouth, Savia said rightly, actually has led to new customer acquisition, not just by the traditional digital channels and others, but actually through referrals. Some of our clinics have gone as high as 72% of new customer acquisition is purely through referral route today. The NPS scores of businesses where the assurance factors have been high. So which means the fact that we are talking about NPS of about 72, 74, which is actually much higher than the normal months that we actually have. So which means customer is recognizing your assurance, and customer is also telling their friends and family to come. Third is, I've also realized that parents have become very sensitive about the way their children are being looked after. So for example, I have had some seriously well-known personalities who may not be skincare customers, but they have actually said that, is your service safe for me, for my child? Because I would like to put her through this, because I know there is going to be uncertainty in the next few years. So I'd like a laser hair removal service, but I want to be sure that your doctor is going to make my child safe. So I think I've seen some new type of consumers coming in, younger customers coming, but guided by parents coming into the business, which is actually there. New challenges have also come up. For example, mask wearing habits all the time has actually led to increase in acne problems. So we have suddenly seen a spurt in performance of acne segments in the business, which was a nascent segment. It was about 5-6% of our business, reached 8-9% of our business, which is another area which is there. Awareness of skincare amongst children and maybe teenagers is actually increasing manifold. So I can see my child, my daughter who is about 14, constantly looking at websites and stuff where actually skincare has become important. Earlier days, if you see 5 years or 4 years ago, it will be color cosmetics and lipsticks and stuff like that they're looking out. Now youngsters also becoming very aware of skincare. So there is also, maybe there is a larger play to be there on skin services and skin products going forward, which is there. And then, of course, movement of the customer from buying products physically in a store to an online environment. So obviously, people do not step into a clinic to buy products. They prefer to buy online. So there is, of course, an ecosystem that is helping us in the form of the Amazons and the Nykas and stuff like that of the world. I think these are the broad changes I can say which has happened. One other point that you made, Rahul, was about pricing. In some cases, because of, unfortunately, the costs increasing, we had to increase our pricing. But that's gone down pretty well with customers, and we have not really seen a negative backlash on account of pricing in the last 6 months in the business. Those are my points.
Sachin, how has your customer expectation changed?
So if I were to take it onwards from what Raji was saying, he spoke about trust and reassurance on the customer side. That in a manner is matched by involvement levels on the customer side, right? So for a moment, think of it as customers who are very high involvement on beauty and grooming, mid-level involvement, and low-level involvement. What this whole last year thing has done is it has made people more aware of where they fall into these. Therefore, if you see, the footfall is still not back to what it was earlier. Okay, the footfall is lesser, but the average bill values have gone high. And one of the reasons for it is that you now have a higher proportion of high involvement customers. Okay, because now they're more sure about what they want. They know that their involvement coupled with the trust and reassurance in the brand actually makes them come and do more, which has been a significant saving grace, so to speak. At the same time,
would it be wrong to say that you have sort of moved to a better quality of customer rather than quantity?
Uh, in a way, yes, but the fact of the matter is that you will need a healthy ratio of customers in each of these brackets, because what a good brand does, it also navigates people across these things, right? So one of our jobs is as evangelists is to educate people. So if somebody starts coming for basic services, how do you educate them? How do you make them understand the import of the benefit of having a beauty regimen, and how do you take them up the ladder? So I would say yes, in the short run you could say that, but I believe that you need to have you the basic service customer who might be high in volume and who would have, like you said, um, and I'm taking from what we were discussing earlier, it takes 21 days or 30 days to create a habit. Now, if the lockdown was, the first lockdown was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there were many cycles of that 1 month or 21 days. So certain people would have got used to DIY for the very basic services. Now, unless we address that, they're going to be happy with what they're doing. But I believe that you need to, just like you need these high quality people, you also need to have the other segments so that you can uh, because I believe you're in an infinite game. You're not there to win this year or this quarter. Yes, you have to, but the idea is to evolve into, we're a business where repeat is the biggest part of our business, right? So how do you carry your customer along and do that journey with them, which is more fulfilling for both sides, is what the whole thing is about.
So the final topic which I would want to throw out is, what has been the experience with home services? I know it's a very hotly debated topic with a lot of very strong views, but do you see a change in the consumer? Because ultimately it's the consumer which decides for us. So do you see a preference in the consumer, in your customers, for more home services? Do they believe that is better, more convenient, safer, qualitatively better, easier than the salon? Any of you? Savio, what do you think?
Through my experience, actually, it's pretty debatable actually in a way, because you have people who do definitely want home services, but but it's a very very small percentage, because either they don't want to get out of the house because they've got elderly parents, or they've got someone who's not keeping well, and or they're simply paranoid that they don't want to get out of the house and get any services done, you know. But by and large, we've seen most people, even people who are doing home services. So we've got a special VVIP home service section within our salon for our VIP clients and all, and they still prefer now coming back into the salon. They want to be in a social environment. They want to see people, be around people, because everyone's just fed up being at home. So, we've seen people who used to do a lot of home services now coming a lot more to the salon. And of course, you're seeing a small, not a huge rise, but a small rise in people, because people are scared of getting home services as well. They want home services, and it's very confusing around. You know what I'm saying? It's like a mishmash happening with home services. But yeah, I think, as I said, it's like a very debatable question. Some people are seeing a positive to it, but where we see it, it's it's not really kind of the biggest thing happening right now. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah. Sachin, how do you see it? Because we know
Yeah, the
that
way
as a
the way I would see, for the longest time, we've had home services for a few years, and they were very small in number and single digit, so to speak. I think one of the things that this whole thing has shown us is that at different times you need to be adaptable. So once again, it comes to the involvement level of the customer. So if there is a customer who's high involvement and who for the moment cannot come to the salon, what do? You are supposed to take care of them because they are your customers, and if you expect them to be loyal, then you need to be loyal to them as well. That is one aspect. The other aspect is what Savi was talking about, which is that there is much more to a salon service than just a technical service. there is a social part to it, there is a connect to it, there is a touch aspect to it. And for a lot of our customers, because we are a repeat purchase business, the salon is much more than just a place where they go to do stuff, right? I think now we need to look at home services not as what is this vertical going to get me, but I need to be able to also have this offering because I need to take my people along with me, both my technicians and my customers, and I need to adapt in a situation where I need to. You can't, you cannot turn around and say, I will only do this or might not do that, because at the end of the day, you are here for the large game. So you need to keep the ball in play. So my thing is, rather than it growing dramatically or whatever, it's more a omni-channel play. For now, the salon will be a significant part, but in our minds, both as business people and for our teams, you have to be open and adaptable to be able to serve your customer where they want to be served. And it could be an option sometimes, and it could be a lack of option, right? So sometimes you do things out of choice, and sometimes you have to do stuff because you don't have a choice, but you still have to make sure you deliver. Because you are connected to that customer, and you need to make sure you continue serving them.
Sachin, so well put. I was so tongue-tied with this whole thing. You just kind of summed it up so well, man. Thank you.
So, Arpit, I'm always very curious because the spa is a place where you want the customers to come because of the ambience, the whole vibe which the spa gives. So how do you see home services in your business?
I think home services is the key. We are also planning to go with a good infrastructure into home services, because ultimately we got into this business to give a certain service to a guest. It doesn't matter that it's high profitable or it's low profitable, fetches huge revenues or not. But ultimately, when I got into this business, the idea was to give a service to a person which he requires. And if we look at it at this point in time, that is what people require. So there is no, it's like a no-brainer. We have to do it, and whether it's got high margins or low margins, that's the key. We have to be there because all the guests do not want to venture out. Some guests want to venture out. There are two kind of guests that we see. One who want to, be out because they're sick of being home. They want to just feel fresh. They want to be served well. They wanted to be treated well. They want to be pampered. And the other one is who do not want all the frills and fancies, and they just want a nice, great massage, which gives them a great mindset, and they can start their day from tomorrow as like a fresh daisy. So we don't have an option. That's it. We have to do it.
So Rajiv, let me ask you. I know that Kaya currently doesn't do any home services, but there are models which are coming up now, which are trying to duplicate what you do at home. So what's your view on that?
No, so I have, I have a different take on this. I feel, we as, I used to be in retail as a business, and at some point we used to talk about e-commerce like this, that, it will never be the customer's, strong requirement, because touch and feel is the most important aspect of the business. But over a period of time, e-commerce created its own niche. The physical retail continues to have its own niche. So physicality will never go away. In fact, the art and what do you call it, the social aspect of a salon or a spa will never go away. But the fact that convenience and access will also become equally important. So if I want to do something very quick and I can do it in the next half an hour's time, where a person comes and does my haircut, I think it's a service that is based on convenience and price, maybe in some segments. So that will happen. So when you ask me this question about whether our services can be delivered at home, we have to find ways where it becomes economically viable for us to do services at home. Some of our competitors have got maybe technology options that they have used to create access for our kind of services at home. We have to study that place. We cannot ignore it completely. But whether we are ready for it at this moment, not really. But is it something that is needed in future? I think it is. That's what I feel about home services.
Okay. So it's been very, very interesting to hear, various points of view, and this panel is absolutely, comprising of people who have really, really deep thoughts and have been in this industry for a long, long time. So thank you, all of you, for sharing your views. And if there are any questions, or if any of you want to add something, please feel free.
Rahul, how about you? Like you said,
Yeah.
you would weigh in on each of these.
Yes. Okay. So, see, from our point of view, for us, right from the beginning of and we've been discussing, Rajiv has been a regular, discussion partner for many, many months now. So we started, and we were very clear right from the beginning that this is a long-term game. It is not going to get over in a few months or so, and we have to prepare for it in the long run. So we basically looked at the three parts of the business. One is, of course, the fundamental business model, the economics of the business. The second was the employees, or the how we handle the employees from earlier, and how do we sustain a different model.
Can from wherever we are getting the barking sound, can we just go on mute?
Sorry about that. So, and the third part was really to work with the customers. So the first part, which is about the cost structure of the business and the sustainability. So the first thing which we were very clear is that this is something in the long run, and we must cut down and conserve capital, conserve cash, reduce costs, inventories to the extent possible. So anything which is good to have, put a question mark on it. Anything which is absolutely essential is the only thing which we should look at. Whether it is in terms of even stores, we were ruthless about even closing certain stores which were not profitable or which would have turned, loss making over the next couple of months. So that was the first one. The second part was really to look at how do we communicate to our team that this is something which we are with you for in the long run. However, it is going to be a tough run ahead. It is not going to be easy, but we are there for you. So the communication channels with our team, speaking to them openly about the fact that it is not an easy task or an easy road ahead. It is going to be tough. And what are the things we can together do to face up to this? So we changed our compensation models for the business point of view also. And for individuals who are, even today, we have many of the individuals, because they perform so well, even in today's time, they are earning probably more than what they used to do pre-COVID. But that has been achieved purely because they understand the importance of doing certain things. It is not that, across the board, people have started earning more or we are paying more money. So that has been the other big, I would say, focus. And the third part of it has really been to try and understand how is my consumer changing and what does she expect from me. And what we understood early on, and even today, I think that still holds, is that the most important thing is this reassurance, as Savio calls it, not just in terms of, things will be okay, but first in terms of the safety itself. So we invested a lot of time and effort in upgrading our safety protocols and also in keeping them at the same level. Because the tendency of putting something new and, after the first sort of apparent danger is over, people tend to relax. So it has been a very strong focus on our part to ensure that these safety protocols and whatever we have put in place are maintained without even a little bit of slack. And I think over a period of 1 year, we are seeing it's a cumulative effect of that, where this whole trust of the customer, the referrals, the new customers, we are also seeing a similar kind of a, benefit coming out of this, which is a consequence of doing certain things consistently and looking at the basic, which is the consumer safety and the reassurance.
Yep.
So guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can,
Savio.
Savio.
Yeah, anyway, just a quick thing. One is, Rahul, thank you so much. You're as cool as ever. And Sachin, Rajiv, Arpit, honor to be with your guys over
Same.
here. Yeah, but I just want a small thing. We've started this hairdressing community right now called Style India People. And so it's a collective of Indian hair and makeup professionals formed to share resources and promote well-being through the ethical practices in the Indian industry. So just follow Style India People. It's all the hairdressers you'll know across the country. And everyone's kind of joining in slowly and steadily. And since we've again got back into lockdown, I guess we're going to be a little bit more aggressive with it. So I just wanted to pass the message on to all of you all. Yeah. And Arpit, I just want to ask you one thing. What's the thing behind you, man? That musical, is it a musical instrument or what? It looks damn cool.
Arpit,
Yeah, behind
Yeah,
you.
it's a light. I got this from Europe long time back, and I love it.
Okay.
Maybe when we party someday together, all of us in my house, we can enjoy this. Yeah.
Definitely. Cool.
so thank you, Savio, thank you, Rajiv, thank you,
Thank you.
Sachin, Dr. Arpit, and Ria for being with us on the panel. And it's been great having you. And all the best, all the very best to you.
Thank you.
We have
Thank you so
some
much, guys.
questions from the audience, but I don't think we have time for it. So I will call a close to this panel.
Sure.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
evening.
Thanks.
Thank
And
you,
all the
guys.
best. Stay safe.
Thank
Bye.
you for maintaining the time. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Superb.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.